The sixth jhana, boundless consciousness. If meditators wish to go further into the formless realms, they should continue to cultivate attention to boundless space and notice that they are conscious of it, and thus space is filled with consciousness. At some point, the mind will abandon boundless space and shift to perceiving boundless consciousness, the sixth jhana. This can feel profoundly unitive, as consciousness seems to fill the whole universe, though really, it just fills the field of experience. Again, equanimity prevails. This state has a sense of presence to it that boundless space doesn't, a diffuse presence that seems to be part of space itself rather than centralized on this side. It is also a great staging ground for the exploration of the psychic powers, as backtracking just slightly and adding to that conscious space, meaning bringing in just a bit of form, albeit potentially quite unusual form, can cause remarkable experiences. Some may describe this jhana as space becoming luminous, with a pervasive bright presence or clear light, and here is where some can run into trouble. The issue is that plenty of traditions posit an awareness, a ground of being, an intrinsic luminosity, a Buddha nature, a Tao, and the like, with the capital letters implying some grand, final, definitive, stable, ultimate something that is in some way distinct from the rest of manifest sensate reality. There are plenty of spiritual teachings that mention things like true self and the like, as if there is some permanent, stable, creative presence that knows all of this, that is all of this, that pervades all of this. In fact, as people get to certain stages of practice, such notions can become extremely compelling and seem extremely true, truths that seem justified by our direct experience and attainments. There can even be skillful uses for these sorts of teachings, contrary to what some dogmatic Buddhist purists will say, as they can point to stages along a developmental continuum that are further than many will attain. Still, they are not as far as one can take insight practices, as one with strong insight will be able to deconstruct the sense that there is truly some ground of being that is stable or remains across moments. Boundless consciousness is one of these compelling attainments that can fool people in this way. It is a trap, one of the golden chains. The golden chains are seductive and profound effects of spiritual practice that can totally gum up the works, trapping people like pigs at Circe's table, like addicts in a crack house, like misers in their vaults of money. They seem so enjoyable, so cosmic, so right, so fantastic, so amazing, so profound, so mind-blowing, that it would seem crazy to question them or investigate them or be friends with anyone who would possibly be so gauche as to point out that there might be a problem, except that there very much is a problem. All of the jhanas can be golden chains, but some of the later ones, particularly the sixth jhana, are extremely sticky and tempting, like the biggest sticky bun ever, like a vast, silent bathtub full of honey. They can very strongly convince people that there is a grand and final truth here, and that the grand and final truth is a permanent consciousness, an eternal watcher, an awareness that is forever, and that will be an eternal and unchanging refuge that protects us, that lets us off the hook, that we could disappear into and yet remain. Nothing of the kind can be found, but people caught up in experiences such as the sixth jhana sometimes go chasing them anyway. Take this as a strong warning. If you begin to suspect that there is really some independent ground, some super space that knows, let sirens blare, warning lights flash, and the earth beneath you tremble with the thunderous roaring message, and preferably a large pointing finger, "Go back. This is not the way," which should really be interpreted as, investigate, see impermanence in all things, see dissatisfactoriness, and not you, even in boundless consciousness. This point will be repeated later with respect to various similar attainments that can also convince us that there is some stable je ne sais quoi, but the more times you hear it, the better. All of that said, here's a perfectly valid counterpoint. There is something truly profound about this jhana. It is just that this profundity should not be taken to be more than it is. Seeing the intrinsic luminosity of anything is profound, and boundless consciousness gives us a broad and profound taste of this, writing it on the mind, and that is a good thing to have written on the mind. So while heeding the warnings above, all of which are valid, also realize that spending time in the sixth jhana can do great things to the mind and the brain. It is showing you a valuable piece of the puzzle. Just don't take it for the whole puzzle. There are a number of standard options from the sixth jhana. Meditators can, 1. Get stuck, which again can happen fairly easily if they are mistaking non-dual formless practices for meditation on the concentration object of boundless consciousness, or fixating on that jhana as being a ground of being, true self, or awareness, watcher, etc. Again due, for example, to misunderstanding the phrase space-like awareness. 2. Go on to cultivate the next formless realm, nothingness. Or 3. Investigate boundless consciousness and then begin the progress of insight. For this last option, and just as we did with boundless space, extremely careful attention must be given to each moment of the appearance and disappearance of sensations making up the perceptions of consciousness, vastness, or equanimity. Each moment of perception of boundless consciousness is a fresh pattern of totally transient sensations. Great precision must be brought to observing that these sensations are impermanent, do not satisfy, and cannot be a self or its property. Because of how fundamentally disconcerting, unsatisfactory, it can be to have these three illusions shattered even at this level of expansiveness, clarity, and simplicity, it is not at all an easy practice to do, but can be very powerful. I label this VJ6, the vipassana aspect of the sixth jhana. It is much more likely that such insights into the true nature of the first three formless realms will arise spontaneously due to previous skillful insight practices. So, you might wonder, what is observing boundless consciousness strobe in and out of reality? Now, there is a question, perhaps the question, and there is nothing like doing the experiment in order to answer it.